Hello. It's me again. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry, my cat is looking like he's about to do something he shouldn't. Which is pretty much all the time. I am in my egg chair today. My new little nest. If you're old enough to remember Mork and Mindy, maybe that would come to mind. This chair helps reduce like noise, that kind of thing, which is part of what I want to talk about today. It's a little bit different than my usual, but I was going to talk about my Asperger's, or as it's now more commonly called, high-functioning autism. This is not meant as something to help you diagnose whether or not you have it. That's for a medical professional to do, obviously. But I wanted to maybe discuss some of the experiences I have had leading up to my diagnosis, which came late in life. Because sometimes people, it resonates with them or something, and you might be curious about it. So anyway, it was just a thought. This chair is kind of one of the indicative, symbols of how I function, or don't always function. I do. I function. I function differently than other people in a lot of ways, and that seems to be a hallmark of Asperger's or high-functioning autism. So anyway, I wanted to start first with the fact that, I was different as a child. I think a lot of people feel this way growing up. I don't think this is entirely an autism Asperger's kind of thing. I think it's, I think everybody, even people who other people look at and go, oh, they're so popular, they've got it together. I think that's normal. It's normal for everyone to feel different or, have moments of I don't quite fit in. To be honest, I was relatively oblivious to the fact that I was different. And in some ways, that's a blessing, right? I was very, very fortunate in a lot of situations that I was in as a child. For one thing, I still am. I'm an only child. So it wasn't like I had siblings to which my parents were going, well, why is this one like this and this one like this? Like, I was me. I was allowed to be me. My parents were, I had a happy childhood overall. It's a good family. My parents and I are very close. So, that, there was nothing there that, and I had a handful of really good friends. I grew up in a neighborhood with kids my age. There were at least 3 that I hung out with regularly, 3 or 4. My mom was friends with their moms, and, it was that kind of thing. I had a really good friend at school. And the school thing in particular is where I was extremely fortunate. So, hang on. I think my cat wants out. Sorry about that. My cat. Always with the cat. I love him though. So, okay. So anyway, school. So I got very fortunate in that I was in a program where from about 2nd grade through 5th grade, I and a select group of students we would go to Homeroom for attendance, and then we would be dismissed to a classroom with a teacher. We called her Mrs. T. She followed us all those years, except after 4th grade she retired and we had someone else that we didn't like as much, and I feel really bad because we were really probably not very nice to that teacher in 5th grade, but it's beside the point. And so every year I knew the kids I was going to be in class with, more or less. It was the same, roughly a dozen of us. We were the gifted and talented class. I'll never forget when they called to tell my mother, we want to put Amanda in this class. My mother said, "Are you sure you have the right child?" She literally was like, not my daughter, but it was. I was smart. I was a smart kid. And so, my best friend Emily was in there with me. This kid Ian, this kid Will. I remember all these kids, and we were in the same class together more or less for all those years. And so it was kind of like we didn't all have the same interests, but we were all different together. We were all weird together, and it was kind of fine. So it wasn't a situation where I was like, oh, I'm this outcast. Now, my mom tells this story where I guess one year, I don't remember this, and that maybe says a lot. I feel like I've blocked out a lot of things, or I'm forgetting them and I'm getting old and senile already. I don't know. But my mom tells this story about this girl who wrote on a board one year that, she wrote the names of everybody who was invited to her birthday, and it was all but me and maybe one other person. This was in Homeroom. This was not in, and that I came home heartbroken or something. I don't remember that. But I do remember that there were probably times where it was very clear to me that the rest of the people in my homeroom or in the, what we call gin pop, we were very different. I wasn't interested in cheerleading. I wasn't interested in sports. I had very specific, very unusual interests. Okay. And that again is often people who call that out as a hallmark of Asperger's. So what would happen was I would read a book and like it so much that I would read it 5 times in a row. Or I would fixate on a kind of book and only read those. For a long time it was animal books. I read Lassie Come Home, Old Yeller, Socks, The Trouble with Tug. I would just read these books over and over, a few times. I would get these weird fixations. I remember one year at the school library, I was systematically checking out, they had this series of cookbooks that were divided by cuisine of different countries, and I was systematically checking out the books for the various countries. I didn't want to cook anything. I don't know now why. I still don't cook. I don't know now why but that was what I was doing, and that I was going to work my way through all the various cooking of all these places. In the summer one year, I went and I checked out books and books and books on various mythologies. And at the end of the summer, I wrote an essay paper on all these mythologies and how they were similar and different. Another summer, I did it with the Mesoamerican and Central American ancient tribes, the Maya, the Inca, the Aztec, the Olmec. I can remember the reason I did that one. I was fixated on the TV show, The Mysterious Cities of Gold. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take this, I'm going to delve. And I did that. I would get these obsessions, basically, and I would fixate, and I would dig in, and then exhaust myself on them, and be done. My friend Emily and I, we were really into the TV show Moonlighting, to the point that at recess, we would play Moonlighting. Thinking about it now, I'm like, I was in 4th grade. Was I supposed to be watching Moonlighting? I don't know. My parents let me watch a lot of things that maybe I shouldn't have been watching. But anyway, I was always David, because David was funny, and I like being funny. Or thinking I'm funny. I don't know. Anyway, I would come home after school every day, and every single day for a year, I would put in Young Sherlock Holmes, the videotape, and I would watch it while I did my homework every single day. So you see, it was just this is the kind of thing that, for me was normal. And nobody was saying, well, that's not normal. So for me, it was kind of fine. And I had friends who went along with it. Emily with the moonlighting, and my friend Tara, who just kind of with the Sherlock Holmes. Because when it was Sherlock Holmes, it was like, okay, I fell in love with young Sherlock Holmes. And then I had to read all the original Sherlock Holmes. And I had to watch all the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes. And I had to read all the Nicholas Meyer books. And then, like, when it was a thing, it was a thing. I would go over to my friend's house and we would watch the Annie movie, the musical, and we would watch 16 Candles, and we would watch them over and over and over. Oh, and that Leslie Ann Warren version of Cinderella. I remember watching that again and again and again. So, like I said, until I kind of got it out of my system. I was in high school, it was all about X-Files. So, but for me, this was normal. The things I struggled with maybe was, I didn't, well, okay, so after 5th grade, we moved. And I started over at a new school, and it was a private school, a Christian school. And I remember a girl saying to me, do you watch Star Trek The Next Generation, which I think had just started. It was like a brand new show at the time. And I was like, no, I don't. I mean, I went through a Star Trek phase, though. I loved Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock. I watched those over and over again. So I was like, no, I don't know this show. She says, 'cause you remind me of Data. Okay, she's like, you would like Data. Well, the truth is, here was another thing that was kind of sometimes tricky for me. Telling when people were joking. Like, I would take everything kind of at face value. Because I was so forthright, to the point that my mom often said I was mean, or, you really can't just say that to people. That's why people don't like you, she would say. I expected people to say what they meant, and, so if somebody said something, at least with a very straight face, I would assume it was true, or, and so, that inability to process humor all the time, which is funny, because I grew up watching a lot of British comedy, so I understood absurd, and I understood kind of dry humor. But I don't know, there was something about when somebody's and I still do it. My husband will be like, I'm joking, and I'll be like, no, I don't. You should know by now, I don't know. So, that kind of thing, the eye contact thing, really hard for me. I tend, I'll tell you what I do, is when people are talking to me, I watch their mouths. So I'm looking kind of at them, but I'm not looking them in the eye, because that makes me uncomfortable. But somebody asked me once if I was cross-eyed. I was like, what? He's like, because you don't look at people when they're talking to you. Are you like, and I was like, no, I don't do that. So sorry if I look cross-eyed. I'm not. It's one of my things that's not my thing. One of my things that's not my thing. Anyway. So all of this, what does this add up to? Well, it doesn't add up to much, except that I was different, but not so different that, I think my parents noticed more than I did. I remember my mom asking one of her friends at one point, because I liked My Little Pony. I was really into My Little Pony for a while. And my mom saying to her friend, I don't know if she can tell the difference between fantasy and reality. And I could, I just preferred fantasy. I was one of those people who lived up in my own head. And sometimes that's an only child thing too, I think, where you entertain yourself pretty easily. So I got to college. I went away to college. And I was taking psychology. And to get extra credit, you could go participate in these studies, right? Like you could go take some tests or participate in like whatever the grad students were doing. They needed guinea pigs and we were the guinea pigs. So I did a few of those. And one day I get called into like the psychology building to an office, and they sit me down and they say, we just want you to know that we think you're autistic. You may have this. I was like, I'm not autistic. Like, because back then, because I'm old, back then the only thing you really knew about autism meant you sat drooling in a corner, and I know now so much more that that's not it, but like that was kind of like your only mental image of it, the only kind of broad sense of it. I was like, no, obviously I'm not. And then they said, well, no, it's this, and they called it Asperger's at the time. And I was like, well, it makes sense, but so? Like, it didn't change anything for me except to say, oh, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense of my experiences. But the truth is, at that point in my life, here I am, 19, and I'm just like, well, I am who I am. Okay, thanks for telling me. And at that point, I had already created any workarounds I needed in life. I knew to leave out my stack of textbooks to remind myself to do that work. If I put it away, I will forget it. I will get distracted by something else. I'll get focused on something else, and I won't get something done. So, nowadays, I literally leave a list beside my computer, a checklist, and it's like I literally have to check things off. I have to write it down the minute I remember that this needs to get done, and then I check it off as I go. Otherwise, it won't get done. So, I had already kind of created this system. Now, I'm still working with a therapist on my sensitivities, because that's another issue for me. I don't like being touched, generally speaking, but if somebody's gonna hug me, it needs to be a really tight bear hug. Like, I think I need one of those weighted blankets. I've always wanted to try one. I've got my egg. I have noise sensitivities that are getting worse as I age. I don't know why that is. But I can't stand the sound of somebody emptying a dishwasher, because the sound of the plates clinking together drives me crazy. To me, it is insanely loud. I'm sure to other people it's just a normal background noise. I don't know. But to me, that particular sound is insanely loud. Loud neighbors, music from, a neighbor. It just causes like so much tension and so much stress in me. And so I have my egg, I have my white noise machine. Like, I'm doing things to try and mitigate that, because I know, there's a certain amount of discourtesy in somebody who's playing their music so loud I can hear it. And if I'm outside, I've kind of taught myself to think, well, if everybody's outside, you're going to hear each other in your yards or whatever. But if I'm inside, it makes me so stressed and tense and angry and irritable that I have to find other ways to kind of. So I'm still in therapy for that very specific piece, so I can like function in the world, or function in my world, in my life, when I'm feeling intruded upon. Like, there are things like people parking in front of my house. I know logically that's not hurting me. What difference does it make? But it creates an insane amount of tension for me. I don't know why. It just does. So, yeah, there are odds and ends. I still sometimes find something that I get obsessed with for a while and then kind of float off of it when I'm over it. Less in the television realm these days. I don't know if I've outgrown that or if there's just not the kind of television that inspires that amount of obsession anymore. I think having kids now and being a writer, my time is just diffused with other things, and I don't have the kind of time to be obsessed with any one thing and sit down and, like, do these deep dives that I used to do. Although I am learning Japanese, I am still into, like, Japanese culture right now. That's, I guess, my current thing. I'd like to learn to draw. I've tried. My brain is not wired for it. If you know of a good way to learn to draw, let me know. I did that drawing on the right side of the brain or whatever. I still can't draw. I can hear the cat again. Now he wants back in. Anyway, that's kind of my overall story. Like, the obsessions, the sensitivities, the eye contact thing, the late diagnosis. It really I guess what's really frustrating, and has always been, I think, is frustrating for a lot of people, is you seem fine to me, or you don't look like you have, what do you mean? What is somebody who has Asperger supposed to look like? It's like, am I supposed to walk around hunched over? I mean, I don't know what you want. The whole invisible disability kind of thing. I don't think I'm disabled. I'm differently abled. The way I think about things is different. I've often been told that the way I think about things is different, unique, strange, interesting. I tend to have, kind of a spider web of thoughts, things. I will draw lines between things that a lot of people don't quite understand, but for me, there's a logical connection. My mom once said that it was like a fly lands on a wall and then flies in this kind of loop and lands over here somewhere else on the wall. She says that's the way you think, and only the fly knows why he did this. But you assume the fly had a reason for that path. And that's how my brain works, I guess. I'm pretty logical and analytical, except when I'm being fanciful, I guess. But I don't know. People say this is me. This is my life. I don't know any different. I'm perfectly happy with who I am, and I guess that's a blessing. I will say, I guess my one regret is that because I spent a lot of high school just thinking, well, I just need to get through this to get on to college, I didn't maybe fully enjoy my high school experience as much as I could have, because I didn't really get as involved as I could have, or maybe would have. Because a lot of the things I would have liked to have done, I felt way too shy to do. And my parents were always of the, well, whatever you want to do, but they never really encouraged me to give things a try if, or, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think I would have done drama or something. I did journalism, I did yearbook. Those felt very safe, very, I think I would have put myself more out there maybe a little bit if I'd been of a different disposition. Maybe being content is not always a good thing because it doesn't motivate you to change things either, right? There's a thought. Sometimes contentment works against us. But overall, it was a good childhood. It was strange and wacky and, set me up for being a writer, because those obsessions that I had, that put me on the path to fan fiction, and that fan fiction put me on the path to writing original stuff. And so, it all works out in the end, I think. And I was very fortunate, like I said, to have I didn't realize at the time that my school experience was unique, because I didn't realize that I was in like this pilot program that nobody else seems to have had or done, or very few people seem to have had that kind of school experience. Mrs. T was amazing and very, like, I don't know, that having that kind of foundation, that probably helped, like, with any. I think if I had gone to every school year being nervous about who was going to be in my class and what teachers, but I knew I was going to have Mrs. T and I was going to have Emily and the same group of people that I was with, and that was very, like, comforting, because a lot of people say, well, people with Asperger's don't like changes to their routine, they don't like, and it's true. I mean, we kind of like knowing what to expect. It doesn't mean that we can't be spontaneous, because we can be, but, like, at the same time, like, abrupt changes to what we think is good. We like kind of knowing what's going to happen today. And that's why I have my calendar, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this, and these are the things I need to get done. And, there's something very comforting about that. And, yeah. So that's why college worked for me, because it was like a very set schedule. It was nice. It was a set schedule, and then there was these moments of free time, and you could kind of, I could do whatever I want in this, hour, 2 hour period. And, that there's something nice about the balance of that. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, this has gotten kind of long. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Like I said, this is not meant for you to, like, try and decide whether or not you or someone is on the spectrum. This is just my personal experience as someone on the spectrum. And it is what it is, as they say. Oh, jeez, I hate that saying. Why did I say that? That's so dumb. It doesn't mean it's not true. It's just kind of an obnoxious, pedantic saying. Oh well. Thanks for listening. And, next time I'll be back with another book. I think I'm about halfway done with the book I'm reading. Hopefully I will finish it soon and have another video for you soon.